Welcome into the CHGO White Sox Podcast, coming to you live from Studio A of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Naderson, alongside me, the CHGO White Sox crew. That's Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber. And the man in the middle is Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
You can follow him at Ectorwall23. That is his name backwards. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. I'm so shook up. We had a whole show planned. We're going to talk to you about what Chris Getz said besides, what Mike Soroka is going to bring, why they traded Aaron Bummer.
Michael Soroka.
Oh, yeah?
That's the preferred situation there with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Situation.
And,
yeah.
And it helps
or
you
name.
out.
That's another. Because I couldn't come up with the word name.
I learned that Zach Britton did not speak up about his name being spelled with a K for a while. So Zach Britton was spelled ZHCH for a while in the majors.
So he's actually Zach, but people accidentally called him Zach.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And he didn't seem too offended because it took him a while into his major league career to say that. And then also Tyrod Taylor. It's not Tyrod. It's
kind of like Eloy Ramirez.
Oh. Well, that one's just, I think, people butchering the Spanish language.
Yeah.
Spelling Zach the wrong way and Michael versus Mike. Maybe his family calls him Mike, but, he's Michael.
These guys get so pumped to be in the big leagues that they'll just let you call him whatever you want.
Right.
Yeah. Like, it's crazy. Like, obviously, there's still so many different people pronouncing Eloy Jimenez's name wrong, as I say the wrong name. Eloy Jimenez's name wrong. And, like, to this day, I feel like you ask him, and he's like, yeah, whatever, pronounce it however you want. Like, he came up, and we literally asked him point blank, is it Eloy? Is it Eloy? Is it Eloy kind of thing? He's like, whatever. Like, that question has an answer. Just tell us what it is.
Well, and the Luis Robert thing, too, that took a while.
That did take a while to get hashed out, didn't it?
Not good for us.
Yeah.
Anyways, hit the thumbs up button. We appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Sarah's producing us. Steven is weirdly watching. Oh, sorry.
Hi.
My bad. I didn't mean to step on that. Someone did say they liked what Sarah brought to the podcast in the Apple Podcast reviews. That
made my day. They said I had a soft, kind voice, which I feel like is I feel like I'm just here and,
hanging out.
Yeah.
And Steven's hanging out on the side, yelling at us about how... Okay, so we got a cop over here on the set.
You say he's hanging out on the side. He's actually standing just off camera, like bouncing up and down. He's so happy.
Like a boxer ready to fight. John Heyman reports that the White Sox are nearing a major league deal, with Paul DeJong. We cannot say that Paul DeJong is a White Sox yet.
He isn't.
So, you excited for Paul DeJong?
Herb?
Yeah, I guess, Chris Getz spoke of defense, and this guy can play multiple positions pretty well. If you're thinking, like many are, that he's Paul DeJong from St. Louis, shortstop who hit double-digit home runs, sometimes 20, sometimes 30 home runs, that guy probably not coming to Chicago. But, he has that in his recent past. I think up until, 2019, he was hitting 20 home runs. But... it's a deal just like when you get Michael Soroka. It can't hurt. It might help. The guy is a placeholder for the most part. I think if they do sign Paul DeJong, they're going to have him at shortstop as a placeholder until Colson Montgomery's ready, either later in 2024 or 2025. I assume it won't be a long-term deal. I'm thinking 2-year deal, with the second year being the team option. And so I'm not going to crap on it as much as I want, but I don't want people to be thinking, oh, yeah, Paul DeJong, here we go. You got a player that was a negative WAR player, like the negative WAR player you just gave up in Tim Anderson last year. Hopefully a change of scenery. He gets over the fact that he's not in St. Louis anymore, because I know he wrote a couple of years ago that, leaving St. Louis was a little big of a shock to him because that's where he got drafted. That's where he came up. He had good success in the major leagues, and now he's kind of over that, that little traveling from Toronto to San Francisco, and now he's got a stable home for at least this year if he gets signed to the White Sox, and I hope he realizes that that's a spot. We're going to give him as many games as he needs to regain the form, but he's there for defense first. Offense is just a plus.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there for the most part. The expectation certainly would be that he would be the everyday shortstop, but not permanently, you know. So I think placeholder is probably a good call for him. And again, it kind of does some more to define what this year is going to be like for the White Sox and what they envision this upcoming season being. We still, even at the GM meetings, didn't get a clear answer from Chris Getz. Hey, do you expect to field the contending team in 2024? And what has happened since the GM meetings? Aaron Bummer is gone. The guys that have come in are going to make some sort of major league impact, but not maybe an overwhelming, an overwhelming addition in some of those guys they got in the trade with the Braves. Now you've got a report of a guy that might be coming in, not going to necessarily overwhelm anyone, except for the folks up in Antioch, who I'm sure are thrilled. But
and Steven,
all the Redbirds in the area are jumping for joy. But you're right. It's not a guy who's probably going to reach that 30 home run mark that he hit in the past. But hey, double-digit home runs out of the shortstop position would be nice after they only got one out of their starting shortstop there a year ago. So I don't think anybody should be expecting this to be some sort of wild upgrade to Tim Anderson. Obviously, you would hope it would be an upgrade over the production that Tim Anderson turned in last season while he was hurt all year. But listen, defense is what Chris Getz hammered home during the GM meetings that was going to be their number one priority. Infield defense between getting Nicky Lopez in that trade with the Braves, and we still don't know whether he's going to be an everyday guy or a bench player. And now if it comes to fruition here, Paul DeJong, that's infield defense being improved for the White Sox.
Yeah, right now the infield would be Moncada at third, DeJong at short if it's actually official. Lopez at second, and we'll talk more about Lopez possibly later on in the show with Chris Getz on if he is actually going to be the guy or not, or maybe if he's just going to be a bench piece, and then Vaughn at first. I also don't know if it's that much of an upgrade. I know that obviously he hit 14 home runs compared to Tim's 1, but Tim had a better batting average. They basically are the same profile when it comes to walking and striking out. DeJong walked 21 times to striking out 121. Tim walked 26 times to 122. Tim is better at making contact, and DeJong probably swings for the fences a little bit more. I think that the floor is a little bit higher with Tim, but the price is just going to be completely different. They just signed Andrus to $3 million. I would assume that it's probably around that number, so it's going to be at least, $10 million less than Tim. So at least from what we're being signaled, this team doesn't seem to be too competitive in 2024. They could play he's not dead yet, the ghost of Ozzie Smith at shortstop, and I would not care because this team's going to lose 100 games again.
I would say the opposite. You said the floor is a little higher with Tim. I say the floor is a little higher with DeJong, but the ceiling's higher with Tim.
That's right. I think I actually meant to say that. You're right.
And so it's what you're going to get from DeJong. While the bat's not there, the defense is going to be solid. And I think as Jordan Lazowski from Sox on 35th has put, it's middle infield of Lopez and DeJong, no balls are going to be getting through. But if you trade Dylan Cease, a lot of balls are going to be going over the fence, so it won't matter at all. So, yeah, this is signaling a huge rebuild, revamping. These players are not going to be, the all-star caliber players that you used to be in both of those guys. And so this is trying to catch lightning in a bottle also at the same time while trying to rebuild on the fly. So if they do work out to being those guys they used to be, Chris Getz looks like a genius. If they don't, everybody's like, they weren't supposed to be good. And so we'll move on to the next because those guys weren't here for a long time. They were just here as placeholders. And so it works out perfectly for Chris Getz in his first year as general manager with little expectations, and you bring in players with little expectations on them too.
Certainly at this position, that is very much the case. I don't know. It's not like there's a future second baseman waiting down at AAA right now. No, that we have seen. Certainly, Lenyn Sosa did not impress in what he's been able to do so far. There's not a future right fielder waiting there unless Oscar Colás dramatically turns things around. So I don't know if you can just say throw placeholders all over the field and wait till 2025, and boy, then we're cooking. Like, they need to go get players to play those positions in the long term, except at shortstop. They have Colson Montgomery coming up. Paul DeJong is probably a perfect placeholder while you wait for Colson Montgomery. So, like, in the vacuum of shortstop, this move is the move you would expect given their situation at that position. But I would be hesitant on judging the whole offseason that way because, like I said, there are other positions where they need guys. They need to go get guys if they're going to be ready for 2025. They need to go get guys. Heck, if they're shooting for 2026, it's not like they can just be like, oh, well, we'll draft this second baseman and the right fielder in the draft this summer, and 2 years from now, then we'll be set. Like, they're going to need those players at some point. Maybe they want to wait till next offseason when the free agent market is a little bit more appealing. That's fine. But judging the whole offseason on just, well, did he go and get the right placeholders all around the diamond or all throughout the pitching staff, be careful with that because shortstop is unique for this White Sox team in that they have the future on the way.
Yeah, and no, it's a good point because, I mean, there is no really future of right field. It was Oscar Colás, who we'll talk about later. There is, as you mentioned, no real second baseman of the future. Maybe, there's like 6 of them. Maybe one of them could be the guy. Maybe it's Naperville's Nicky Lopez. Maybe it's Lenyn Sosa. Maybe it's Popeye. Maybe it's Zach Remillard, your guy. I mean, it could be anybody. Could be Herb.
Can I ask you who had more hits, Paul DeJong in Toronto, or the catcher for the White Sox,
Corey Lee.
Corey Lee.
Yeah,
the White Sox.
This is unfair because I saw Connor's. I already looked at his.
Did you?
0.68 batting average in Toronto. I would say that he had less hits than Corey Lee.
He did. He had 3.
Yeah, he only played 13 games. And if
But he had 40 some at bats though.
So we'll go to the chat real quick. Connor said, guys, DeJong is actually terrible. As a guy who watched him for a full month after the deadline, woof. He would say that. Paul DeJong in those 13 games, as you mentioned, Herb, 44 at-bats, 3 hits, which
all singles,
approaching on the Corey Lee territory, which gave him a OPS plus of -62. So I think
that's not good.
Connor's evaluation is pretty fair. But as you brought up, Herb, this guy was in St. Louis for a ton of his career. And in St. Louis, he played 81 games this year in St. Louis, a 710 OPS plus, a 710 OPS, 92 OPS plus. His defense was fine. Like, if he is comfortable in Chicago with a full offseason, having the expectation that he's going to be in Chicago, maybe that sets him up better than, hey, you're going to go over to a new country in Toronto, because that didn't seem to work out well, and there was at least a little bit of a bounce back. He went from -62 OPS plus to 26 OPS plus in San Francisco. Okay. So
these are for some pretty small sample sizes, though. Too.
Above 0. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, but just, there was a lot of change in that player. So I don't know how critical to be of him in those 18 games of San Francisco and 13 games in Toronto. Like, it's probably the worst games he'll ever play in his career.
Local up the middle defense. I like it.
Well, you think they're done? I mean, this also isn't official, and also Whit Merrifield isn't on the team yet. Who's going to play right field? And also, is Nicky Lopez the guy? I think Nicky Lopez can play second base and will likely be used, but is he going to be the starter?
I mean, I think that remains to be seen. Certainly, I asked Chris Getz that very question on Friday, and what he had to say was that it's too early in the offseason to tell. And I think here you go. Here's a report of them adding to that infield mix. That infield mix is different not even a week later maybe than it was when Chris Getz talked on Friday, right? So there is a lot of, obviously, time left to go, and maybe there are some more moves left as well. I mean, certainly if you can go out and get a player that is better than Nicky Lopez, that makes Nicky Lopez able to be a backup infielder, a guy who can move around, then you're in a better spot, right? So maybe Chris Getz has that in mind, or maybe that's just we don't know what's going to happen. We'll see if something happens. But if this is the guy, then we'd be okay with that. But basically, he was just saying too early to tell. So I think that's the answer right now. I would tend to think that they'll probably go try to bring in some other folks, but I don't know how much better, than Nicky Lopez that'll be. Maybe your Whit Merrifield prediction is cooking. Who knows?
Again, I don't think it's a prediction. I don't think it's cooking. I think it's set in stone.
We did hear about Paul DeJong a long time, and it's almost to fruition. So it seems like they don't have like the necessary secretive type of vibes that Kenny and Rick used to work with, where it's like, everything's clandestine, and then when something happens, like, oh man, the White Sox were out there doing things. I heard about Paul DeJong like right when the offseason started.
Well, you heard about it from Sox Machine. Sox Machine had the rumor first, November 6th, and I think they reported it as we were on the show. So we did bring it up then, and it did come to fruition, as you said. I don't know if it means lack of secrecy, though. I mean, they didn't get rid of everybody.
I mean, we're already talking about Whit Merrifield coming.
None of that's sourced, though.
This is all, like, we all know that they're playing. And then Salvi's going to come as our catcher because we still need a goddamn catcher because Corey Lee can't catch, or can't hit. He can probably catch.
Okay, but, like, some of it's a bit. I don't think the Salvi thing is going to happen, as you mentioned, because of money. Like, that is, if that trade happens, like, the Aaron Bummer trade was an ugly trade, like the 5-for-1. The Salvi Perez trade to Chicago with Yohan Moncada going back to Kansas City is going to be the most confusing trade ever if it happens, which is why it probably won't happen. Whit Merrifield's a free agent who can play second base and right field. I mean, it just and his former bench coach is the manager. I mean, I don't think it's that crazy. There's no actual sources there. It just seems like there was reported interest in Nicky Lopez for a while. We had an episode in January about it.
It was last offseason, yeah.
Right. So I mean, it seems like there's been interest in Nicky Lopez, so it's not shocking that like he ended up coming back. I mean, I don't know if anything's leaking out, though. I mean, the only thing that I would say is the Sox Machine one.
And smart. Sourced. Well sourced.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to them. All right. Thank you to everyone hanging out with the comments. Hit the thumbs up button if you're hanging out with us. We're going to talk a little bit about Garrett Crochet. Why don't we take a break, though? Paul DeJong maybe is the next shortstop for the Chicago White Sox. How's that beer, Vin?
Well, it slid right across the way, but it did not spill. Probably because it's honkingly delicious. 312 that didn't spill. Goose Island is our proud partner here at CHGO. They've been Chicago's beer since 1988, and we think you should go check them out as well. Now, whether you're going over to Lincoln Park, over on Clyburn there to have a burger and some beer at their location up there, or you're just heading on over to the tap room on Fulton Street in West Town, either place is a place where you can get some fantastic beers. Their whole roster's good. We enjoy, obviously, the 312. I enjoy it. I'll be enjoying it on Thanksgiving. I'll be thankful for Goose Island. Herb is enjoying the beer hug, which he often does. Which variety do you have today?
Juicy beer hug.
Oh, the juicy beer hug. Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
My favorite design in the can as well.
Is the beer hugs?
Yeah, the beer ones. Those are fun.
They're nice. They're bright. And then, of course, you've got the full pocket pills, which is what the non-Milwaukee Brewers drink over at the brew house. So I think you should go get yourself some Goose Island whenever you can.
Sounds great.
They're supporting us. You should support them. Since 1988 here in town, go have yourself a honkingly good time.
It's just over there. You want to go now?
Well, after the show.
Oh.
But sure.
Clybourne Street?
I mean,
Clyburn's in Lincoln.
we could just go now.
Clyburn's in Lincoln. All right, and that's the
That's
show.
the
We're
show.
going to get
We're
going to get a goose.
Midtown Athletic Club and tennis courts has 4 locations: Palatine in the northwest suburbs, Bannockburn in the north shore, Willowbrook in the southwest suburbs, and the one that I visited yesterday, the Midtown Athletic Club and Hotel in the middle of Bucktown and Lincoln Park. Midtown Palatine has launched a multi-million-dollar transformation of the club, which will be completed in early 2024. Listeners can lock in favorable rates if they join before the end of the year. Something at the clubs that everybody can have, like the single people can have their workouts and have their drinks at the bar. The families, childcare is included in your family package at Midtown Athletic. Please, people making lifestyle changes or holistic changes are all welcome at Midtown Athletic Club. And one of the quotes from one of the people who are members at Midtown says, Midtown Chicago is the nicest fitness club I've ever been to. And as I said yesterday, to call it a fitness club is like underselling it because it seems more like a country club, seems like a luxurious thing for you to have because they have super luxe locker rooms with wet and dry saunas, premium amenities, a collection of boutique fitness studios, and it's not gym quality. The spaces are like boutique quality. So they have the arena, Samadhi, everybody fights, ride, the field, and the theater. Those are just some of the classes that they have. You could take a spin class if you want to, Sean. You can take a cross-training class or a boxing class.
You and I could box together.
We could. Or we can do, I saw their Pilates studio. Awesome, too. and they provide all the equipment you need. So if you do a yoga class, the yoga mats are there and all that stuff. The spin classes, you can bring your own shoes, or you could just clip onto your own spin cycles shoes with your regular shoes that you use for workouts. They have the best tennis courts and programming in the sport. Midtown has indoor, outdoor tennis, pickleball, and paddleball courts. USTA professional quality all the way. So head on over to midtown.com/CHGO and find out more and tour the Midtown Athletic Club nearest you. I prefer the one in Chicago, but go to Bannockburn.
I mean, go
to Willowbrook.
I mean, maybe you live closer to Bannockburn.
Oh, go to Palatine.
I don't know. We don't know. Have fun.
They're all great.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Go to Palatine.
It's a call to action.
Palatine.
All right. And there was a question, too, I think from Kevin earlier, if Sean Mania is from Illinois. He is not.
He's a region rat?
He's a region guy. He's from Indiana. All right. So I don't know if people are figuring out whether it's Royals or former Illinois residents. We can cross off
area residents.
Yeah. Is that Chicagoland?
Where's Sean Mania from?
Well,
is it Crown Point?
He finished in Maryville.
That's
But
Merrillville's closer than Antioch. That's for sure.
He was born in Wanata, Indiana.
That sounds made up.
Originally attended Union Mills, which is an unincorporated community in Noble Township, LaPorte County.
Merrillville is definitely closer to Sox Park than Antioch is, though.
Yeah,
it might be closer than Naperville. Maybe. Thoughts?
I don't know.
Naperville to the park?
Let's get to the Google Maps on
Naperville's about an hour to the park, I believe. It's about the same as Wheaton, which I'm from.
So where did Nicky Lopez go?
Naperville Central.
Naperville Central to 35th and Shields is a hour and 4-minute drive with current traffic.
Yep.
And then where the hell is Sean Mania from?
Merrillville.
Merrillville.
Indiana.
45.
Nailed it.
Damn.
Closer.
Yes.
But I mean, I think traffic, it's 39 and a half miles, Naperville Central, because it's mainly traffic.
What show is Jeff listening to? Did I pump up Paul DeYoung?
35.9.
Apparently, I was pumping up Paul DeYoung. I'm out of my mind for a second. I said he was a bad player. I said he was a negative WAR player. He's a good defensive player.
Herb, I think you said...
You got that imaginary radio / podcast going on, Jeff.
I'm pretty sure that you said Paul DeYoung is going to win MVP.
I did.
Mainly because he's not a pitcher.
Call back.
All right, let's go to Garrett Crochet and some of the stuff that Chris Getz said yesterday, or not yesterday, but Friday, when the Aaron Bummer news broke. The question was asked, will Garrett Crochet be a starter or in the bullpen? The quote, with Garrett, for one, he's got an opportunity to have a healthy, normal offseason. Coming into spring training, there's going to be an innings progression for him, and we'll make a decision at some point in spring whether we continue to extend those innings and build them up, or if there's a greater need in a different role for the White Sox. Obviously, I want him to be a multi-inning pitcher. If that means it's going to work towards a starter, so be it. Primarily, we're going to prioritize his health and his and he's off and running this offseason, and I know he's excited for whatever opportunity is given to him next year, but Garrett is preparing for different Orioles with us. I think you guys meant roles, but...
That's just a typo.
Yeah, you guys... I like that it said Orioles, because it was, tied in with
he's preparing for different Orioles.
Maybe he's going to be packaged with Dylan Cease. But yeah, what do we make of that from Chris Getz? Because it's definitely not, he's a starter.
No, it's not, but it is... very much in line with Chris Getz keeping all options on the table and not really, deciding to go down one path and then needing to backtrack. To me, it sounds like multi-inning reliever, but we know and we've been talking about how great that need is in the starting rotation. And if they get to spring training and they're just picking between Kopech, Soroka, Schuster, Toussaint, Schultens, and Garrett Crochet is blowing guys away 2 innings at a time, they might say, well, what if we made that 4 innings at a time? And so I think that obviously we've talked about it's going to take time. If they get to the end of spring training and they're like, we would like you to be a starter, he's not going to be on the opening day roster. It is going to take time to get him stretched out to that point. That being said, if they want him to be some sort of super-duper 2-3 inning relief guy, then that you're on track to doing that more so than otherwise. So it seems like maybe they're trying to Goldilocks this thing and meet in the middle rather than just be, you're going to go out there, get 3 guys out, and that's the end of your day, or we need you to throw 6 or 7 innings, they're going to say, why don't you kind of come in and Andrew Miller this for us and see if you can be 2-3 innings at a time. Maybe that becomes, Sean, as you've mentioned in the past, an opener type situation, or maybe it just becomes, hey, Touki Toussaint can only give us 4 today. We're going to need you, Garrett, to get us through to the 7th inning kind of thing. So piggybacking, I believe, is the term. So anything can happen. I think that's kind of what Getz was saying there. If I were to forecast what is going to be the most likely course, I think he stays in the bullpen, but as a multi-inning guy as opposed to we need you to come in and get 3 guys out late in the game.
And I think you've spoken on this before, Vinny, where he has let it be known that he would like to be a starter.
He would.
But, you just laid it out perfectly. I think the White Sox need him in the bullpen, but also there has to be kind of like this carrot and stick thing where you are the bullpen guy, and we need you for those roles, but we'll give you an opener every once in a while. As you were talking with the Giants system, how they just started a lot of people and had multiple people start 10-plus games for them. Maybe you can start Garrett Crochet and then work him up in that 2021 hybrid role that Michael Kopech kind of did, where you're building him up a little bit, but also his main role is back of the bullpen type of guy where he's got to be a shutdown guy back there. But also, hey, you haven't pitched the last couple days. Instead of your necessary throw day, this is a throw day on the mound. You're getting us 2-3 innings right now. We're stretching you out. By the time August comes, maybe you can go 4 or 5 innings and give us a start there that is more representative of what a major league starter is, because I think he's only thrown at most like 55 innings in a major league season, and then he got hurt with the Tommy John surgery. So like he is nowhere near you need to be for a starter's innings base to put him into that, even though I think he wants that, but he would have to start next year just to stretching him out a little bit more and then say, hey, give us good bullpen innings, and then we'll give you some good starter innings and stretch you out, and maybe in 2025 then we can think about a full-time plate for you.
And Sean, one thing that you've brought up specifically in regards to Brian Bannister coming aboard, but maybe Chris Getz is in charge, maybe there's a different thinking about how to approach things in the front office. And Chris Getz used the words on Friday when he talked about acquiring Soroka and Schuster. He said it addresses our need for starting pitcher innings, which didn't strike me as the same as our need in the rotation because we need 5 starting pitchers. And that might be for better or for worse, but it might be an idea on how to approach things a little differently. And perhaps Garrett Crochet could be a part of the solution to starting pitcher innings, even if he isn't a starting pitcher, so to speak. So maybe they are looking at this not from a 5 guys making 32 starts type perspective, and more of a we need 32 starts times 5 worth of innings. And then that number can be reached in any number of ways. And maybe they're doing that, maybe they're not. Maybe they're leaving the door open for that based on the personnel that they have. I'm sure they would like to go into spring training with 5 guys who they would be confident could make 32 major league starts. But if they don't, there are perhaps other ways to skin that cat.
That's such a unfortunate phrase.
Starting pitcher innings?
No, skinning the cat.
Oh.
I
didn't come up with it.
It's so graphic.
It is.
Leave that damn cat alone.
I didn't come up with it, I promise.
No, you didn't. Crochet
It's an idiom, Sean.
And I don't
we
like
have
it.
so many bad idioms in this language.
Man, that's going to be our Black Friday episode. What's your favorite idiom?
Oh, or least favorite idiom.
We could power rank 15 idioms. Watch out for your hot podcast feeds. No, we do have a episode planned for Friday. So stay tuned.
It's a fun one.
It's a fun one.
Yeah. You can pop it into your ears while you're standing in line at Walmart.
Or the Jewel. Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said that.
I don't think people go to Jewel for Black Friday deals.
I need more food. I just ate some.
Wow, sour cream is so cheap today. Crochet's pitched in 72 games in his career. 15 of them he has pitched over an inning and a third in them. So 20% of his games he has thrown multiple innings. I mean, if we want to stretch that to an inning and a third, it means 4 batters.
Listen, I think it's a valuable skill set. I mean, I think trying to have Garrett Crochet be that guy is a good thing for the White Sox in the long run if they can turn him into a very unique weapon. And, you brought up, Herb, what Kopech kind of did in 21. Maybe that's what Michael Kopech's future holds too. We have no idea. Obviously, they're planning on him being part of the starting rotation. They would like that to just kind of go off without a hitch. But we've heard talk about the quote-unquote versatility that Michael Kopech has as well. The ability to go out there for more than one inning is a big one, especially during the season when you're trying to save your bullpen arms and stuff like that. It shouldn't be viewed as sort of this half measure. I think to have that sort of weapon at your disposal is a fantastic thing for any team. That being said, we're just still in this kind of amorphous zone with Crochet where we don't know what he's going to be because of how much time that injury cost him.
Yeah, I mean, it is crazy. I mean, he missed all of 2022 because of it, and then what happened in 2023?
There were some setbacks
just kind of
in the minor leagues, yeah.
It's tough because, I mean, at some point, he was ranked as high in the top 40s of some prospect rankings after that 2020 season. So I don't want to say that he's completely changed and that potential still isn't there, because we saw with Jake Berger, he had all the injuries in the world and still bounced back. But we just saw how affected he seemed to be by the actual injury. There wasn't a ton of steam this year. Out of those 15 appearances, one of them came in 2020, 3 of them came in 2023, and then the rest all in 2021. He was a complete monster in 2021. So I think he showed you kind of that roadmap in 2021. He wasn't that flamethrower he was in 2020, but he did seem to kind of find a role. It's just there's so much time between that I don't know how confident you can be. Because, like, you look at Spencer Turnbull, he's a former second-round pick. He just got non-tendered by the Detroit Tigers, and he's had every injury in the world from Tommy John surgery to, I think, a shoulder injury to, like, a broken toenail. Like, sometimes. That
sounds bad.
Well, and it was funny because A.J. Hinch said it's going to be about a 5-day injury, and then he just never pitched again for the Tigers.
I wouldn't want a broken toenail.
No, I wouldn't either. But, like, all the Tiger fans are like, he whined, he complained, and it's like, I don't know, it sounds pretty tough. Like, I don't know. Anyways.
If you're going to land on your toe the whole time, it's going to be hard.
But with Crochet, it doesn't seem like there's a ton of momentum. Obviously, they're starting Paul DeJong at shortstop, so they can give him all the rope if they want.
Reportedly.
But they can give him all the rope that they want for him to succeed. So I'm fine to see all of these birds spread their wings and reach the potential they can, whether that be Paul DeJong.
Is that a Paul DeJong reference?
Maybe, no. Oh, birds.
Illinois State Redbird.
That's true.
Yeah.
Maybe Paul DeJong hits 30 homers again. Maybe he sucks. Maybe Garrett Crochet can throw 70 innings and can have a full season, and that would be fantastic. Maybe he sucks. Maybe Michael Kopech makes 30 starts. Maybe he sucks. I mean, I don't know.
This is all.
I know Luis Robert Jr. is not going to suck,
yeah.
And I'm fine with whatever route they want to take with Crochet because he's just got to put something on the board, and whether that's at AA, AAA, Major League Baseball, he's got to start getting momentum going, and hopefully health will allow him to do that.
All the guys that they've picked up have to play 99th percentile of their power to be any good for the White Sox. For the most part, they've been bad lately, so this year is just going to be like, whatever, what happens. And yes, like Vinny said, the offseason's not over. Maybe they strike a deal. And I'm thinking in that conversation when you're listening to the starting rotation, I don't know if you did it on purpose or just by accident, didn't put Dylan Cease in there. But Dylan Cease might be traded. Bob says it's like a 90% chance. I think he told Sox Talk people that there's 90% chance that he's going to get traded. If he gets traded, I guarantee there's going to be some good talent coming back. So, and on that, you can maybe get like a middle infielder from the Dodgers or maybe somebody from the Orioles, et cetera, and the team looks a little bit better than the currently constituted team. If you're looking at this team right now, you're like, oof.
How does trading Dylan Cease make them better?
It doesn't.
Okay.
It does not, but at least you could say the team is a little bit better well-rounded than it was before, because right now you only have one real major league starter in him, and if you only have him, might as well just trade him and get better players who are ready for the major leagues.
It better make him better at least in 2025.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because then why the heck are you even doing it? Exactly. You could just have Dylan Cease for 2 more years. Yeah. If the idea is to, they're not going to trade Dylan Cease unless they think it makes them better for 2025.
Right. Well, and you know what's crazy? I learned about this thing because Lance Lynn signed with the Cardinals. Kyle Gibson signed with the Cardinals. Did you know that you can extend players? That they don't have to go to free agency.
No.
You could actually negotiate a contract to like keep a player around in town.
Do we got like a sad trombone noise, Sarah, that you can play
so
for
sad.
that bad joke by Sean?
Thank you.
We know it's going to happen, Sean.
We should play it pretty often.
That's good producing right there, Sarah.
That's the
I
first time we
want to
played
use
that.
this one often, but then again, like I'm always like, I don't
It's the
know,
White
maybe
Sox. You can use it
I'll try to
all
keep
the
the
time.
spirits up a little more.
Here,
but
I'll try. The White Sox signed Paul DeJong. There you go.
Reportedly.
Do you guys want to try one?
Whoever KPW wants us to sign a guy who could play everywhere that isn't a former Royal, Kevin Biggio. Even though KPW got me money, and so did Kevin Biggio. He said he hits home runs every day, every game that he goes to, or the day after there, and he got me a lot of money on that bet.
Let's go. Let's take a quick break, and we'll jump into more.
Read.
What?
I got another read. I forgot.
Oh, yeah, you do. Well, don't worry, because I'm going to tell people about Ray CDJR. Our friends, the CHGO Sports Podcast, the CHGO Bears Podcast, was just up at Ray Chevy doing a Toys for Tots opening event with them. They were doing a live show up there. We're very proud to be working with Ray Auto. And Ray CDJR, Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram in Fox Lake is a part of that Ray family. If you are in the market for a new vehicle, go check out the team at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram in Fox Lake. At Ray CDJR, you'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest inventories and find unforgettable savings. And right now, during Black Friday sales event at Ray CDJR in Fox Lake, you'll get 0% financing on all new select models all month long. And that's not it. Just for listening, you can get a free oil change when you mention CHGO at the service center or mention CHGO when you book online at RayCDJR/service. So if you are in the new market for a new vehicle, then you have to check out the team at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram because they're the only team we recommend. Visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. For more information, visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake or raycdjr.com, serving the community since 1963.
And I did look up Matty Rice. Thank you for that notification. Paul DeJong has a deal with the White Sox, pending physical per source. This is from Mark Feinsand. John Heyman reported the sides were close. So, Paul DeJong, White Sox legend. I started eating Hero Bread because I have type 2 diabetes, and I didn't want to give up all the good stuff like sandwiches, the wraps, the quesadillas, and Hero Bread has been great for me, and I'm sure it'll be good for you when you give it a try. Need a low-carb option to fit your lifestyle and dietary constraints? The founder of Hero Bread, Cole Glass, baked 100 muffins per day.
What?
Per goddamn
Herb,
day.
that's so many muffins.
It is.
What did he do with the stumps?
I don't know. He threw them all away because he's like, ugh, this is not good enough. This has too many carbs in it. Before he found a perfect blend that fit into his allergy constraints. That's what pushed him to start Hero Bread. And the texture and the taste of these, well, I usually have the flour tortillas, just like any of your favorite flour tortillas, but they have 0 net carbs, 15 grams of protein, and only 80 calories. So the taste and texture taste exactly like those without all the extra stuff that your favorite right now's favorite flour tortilla has. But after you try Hero Bread, this will be your favorite. As I said, 15 grams of fiber, or 15 grams of protein, high fiber, 0 net carbs. Hero makes sliced breads, buns, tortillas, and they're all available at hero.co and at Amazon. Right now, Hero Bread is offering the CHGO fam, that is you who is listening and watching right now, 10% off their first order. Just go to hero.co and use our code CHGO. Save on Hero Bread today. That's HERO.co to save 10% today.
Thanks, Herb.
You're welcome, Sean.
All right, we got 2 super chats. We did get our friend Connor Smith into the studio yesterday, and that was fantastic. He sends in a super chat today. Thank you, Connor. In the new wild card format, Sox makes the playoffs in 2003, 2006, 2010, and 2012. So,
It'd be up to 15.
I think he's saying there's a chance.
He'd be up to 15.
15.
15 playoff appearances in 123 years. Because currently it's 11.
And Kenny and Rick would still have a job.
I didn't even know what you were referencing when you said 15. But now
We use that 11 number a lot, I feel like.
We do.
Yeah.
No, we do. Maddie Rice saying from a $5 super chat, thank you, Maddie. Seems like some decent talent coming out of Japan this offseason. Vinny, any insight as to why the Sox are never involved in that market?
I don't know if I would say never. Certainly you go back far enough, and they've got some very memorable players from Japan. I think Tadahito Iguchi sticks out as probably the most memorable, but Shingo Takatsu before him as well. And I guess technically you could say that Oscar Colás came to the White Sox from Japan as well, though obviously that was a little bit different situation. You're right. There is some decent talent coming out of Japan this offseason, but I believe the top two players on that market are both starting pitchers, and very good ones at that, very high on the rankings, at least, of free agent starting pitchers. Now that Aaron Nola's off the board, I believe Yamamoto is probably the second-ranked free agent starting pitcher out there, and then the other guy whose name I don't remember at the moment, I apologize.
Oh.
The other Japanese pitcher.
Well, Shota? I think Shota Shota is his first.
There's another one, and he's right there.
Eric Fetty?
Yeah. And there's another, he's right there in that top 5 probably of free agent pitchers based on the rankings that I've seen. So if you've got an owner who said publicly to us a distaste for kind of big free agent contracts that are handed out today, particularly those that go to pitchers, there maybe you could connect the dots a little bit there. I think that certainly when it comes to Chris Getz, he is going to, if we are talking about what he's said to us, they're going to evaluate each and every option, each and every opportunity individually. But when you've got Jerry Reinsdorf saying the kind of things that he said about free agent spending in general, it would maybe make sense that you wouldn't hear the White Sox connected to someone of Yamamoto's stature. Not to say that they would never sign a player who comes out of Japan, but maybe it would need to be in a price range that is more to their liking.
Shota Imanaga is the other pitcher that you were talking about. And there was, from the general manager meeting, there was like a weird question where he was asked about his vision for the international strategy. He said, we're certainly going to attack things a little more strongly on the pitching front. There are different ways to allocate international bonus money. We had a meeting last week with Marco Patti. I don't know why I always see, going back to the discussion earlier in the show, just butchering names, and everyone else in our front office, and we're putting together a strategy for the White Sox moving forward, but you can expect a different approach. So, I mean, maybe they are a little bit more aggressive, like, now in the Japanese front. I know there was also Yariel Rodriguez, the Cuban pitcher who pitched in the World Baseball Classic. He's a free agent as well, and I heard the White Sox are, at least, I haven't heard.
You read.
Yes. I saw a tweet that linked the White Sox to Yariel Rodriguez.
And you got to remember, too, international market is a pretty big umbrella. Mm-hmm. And, the White Sox have had success with Marco Patti signing specific kinds of international free agents at specific ages, out of, and in some cases out of specific countries. It doesn't necessarily mean that those are the equivalent of the kind of players that are being posted by these Japanese teams. Now, those guys obviously have a ton of professional experience pitching over in Japan at what I guess you would say is the second best major league in the world. So, yeah.
And then let's move into more Getz stuff from Friday, specifically Colás, since we brought up the Japanese international market. We brought up that it was reported that Colás was not going to be playing winter ball like previously expected. Getz was asked about that, and he said he's not playing winter ball. He has chosen to work in his training. He's down in Florida. He's got a group of players that he's regularly working out with, working on his offensive game, working on his body. He chose to take a path instead of playing, which I certainly understand. I think there's benefits of both. I think that he's determined to be better next season, and we'll see what it looks like come spring training. We clipped that quote. We clipped our discussion about will he play winter ball, and John Greenberg of The Athletic was like, oh, this is funny. Got to chuckle out of it. And then he reached out to you the next day when Getz said this and said that Getz seemed peeved when he was saying this. Did you get any vibe from that?
Well, I mean, I asked the question, but let's put it this way. I can tell you one person who's probably not happy about this decision, and that's Pedro Grifol. Because Pedro Grifol spent the end of the year talking to me and the beat writers at large very strongly about how important he felt it was that Oscar Colás play winter ball. And I believe, Chris, if memory serves, Chris Getz was asked the same, should he play winter ball? Would it be good? And he said, yes, that would be good. We're happy that he's doing that kind of thing. Obviously something changed. And I bet Pedro Grifol is not very happy. Chris Getz pointed out in that answer, which I think makes sense, benefits to both routes, and maybe it was explained to Chris and the White Sox at large by Oscar, hey, these are the things that I think I can get done doing it this way. But Pedro Grifol, who correct me if I'm wrong, managed winter ball, I believe, at one point, knows obviously the close up the benefits of playing in that league, of getting that experience, and obviously he knows from close up the things that Oscar Colás needs to do to become a major league caliber baseball player. When you now hear that Colás just decided not to do that, granted we don't know necessarily everything that went into his decision, I would imagine that his manager would have preferred that he went the other route.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, and I would bet to guess that is kind of part of the problem with Oscar Colás as Pedro sees. Like, he gives him a suggestion, strongly worded suggestion to play winter ball, and then Oscar's like, I'm good, cat. And then, Chris Getz, you can't make him play winter ball, so he does what he wants to. And I would assume that he wants him to play winter ball so he can continue getting tutelage from specific people who are like, okay, you have to do this, that, and that the correct way, instead of just having himself and other people around him holding himself accountable, instead of actual professional managers and coaches who are holding him accountable and then reporting back to the White Sox to see how he's doing. And so I'm sure this is not going over well, as you said, with Pedro Grifol. Right when you read that quote, I was like, I'm sure Pedro's pissed off about that 100%, because when you guys spoke to him, I think he brought it up multiple times that winter ball would be the best option for him, and his face looked like, this is what I mean. Winter ball, he better do it.
And he wasn't saying oh yeah, it would be nice if he played winter ball. He could get a lot out of that. He said it's extremely important that he does this kind of thing, and now he's not doing it.
I could be wrong, so take this with a grain of salt. I think that Colás was slated to play with the Gigantes de Cibao.
My favorite team.
This team that Pedro managed.
Okay.
I could be wrong, or he might have managed the Toros, and Colás might have been playing for the Toros. I could be wrong, but I think the team that he was slated to play for was Grifol's former team as well. So there might even be more layers to that, but I don't know. I could also just be spewing crap. Cool. Let's move on. And then finally, the one that we wanted to bring up was the clarification on the clarification on Colson, and then we'll end with Eloy. Clarification again. We brought this up on Friday. He's not going to be part of the opening day roster, or at least there's no talks of it happening.
Yeah, I mean, I guess let's put it this way. At the GM meetings, he had left the door open to anything happening, right? That, hey, he kept saying, we don't want to limit Colson Montgomery and what he can do. We don't want to cap what he can do. It definitely sounded like he was going to show up to spring training, have a chance to compete if the situation was correct there. Not putting any pressure on him, but let him do as much as he can. And then on Friday, he was asked point blank, have there been any conversations about Colson making the opening day roster? And Chris said no. No, there have not. So I would have to imagine, and I think this is the impression we were under anyway, that they are going to be planning for Colson Montgomery not to be a part of the opening day roster. But I think that still leaves the door open to Colson shows up to spring training and is A-Rod, in terms of production or whatever, and all of a sudden, they have no choice but to put him on the team.
Is 6'4", 240.
And I mean, seriously, signing Paul DeJong, reportedly, does not preclude that from happening, right? But it also puts absolutely no pressure on Montgomery to have to do any of that. He can just continue his development as his career sees fit, and there's no pressure there. And I think that's the main thing. There is no rush for Colson Montgomery to get up here and be the White Sox everyday shortstop. And Twitter is abuzz right now I don't know if a buzz is the right word. Twitter is happening right now with the pressure reliever in terms of Paul DeJong.
Let's move now to Eloy. Getz addressed the trade talks, and obviously it's still the narrative that we're open to moving anyone. Herb, you brought up that Bob Nightingale said that apparently the percentage that Cease gets traded is 90%. First off, with Eloy, if Cease is 90%, what percentage do you think Eloy is to get traded?
See, the thing is, I don't know if there's a lot of teams checking, but there's a decent amount of teams checking in for Eloy because the talent is there. It's immense. They saw it. Everybody knows that he can hit the ball and hit it with authority, and usually is a good hitter too. But he's relegated pretty much to designated hitter status with the White Sox, and he's often hurt. So I would say there'll be some teams checking in, at least 5 teams. I don't know the number, but I don't know exactly if there's interest other teams in trading for him and if the White Sox see enough value coming back because he's still relatively young in his career and relatively inexpensive. So if the White Sox don't see enough coming back for Eloy, they could just say, no, we'll hold on to him. There's no rush to get rid of him because Dylan Cease, we always see the writings on the wall that he's pretty much going to be a free agent after 2 years. For Eloy, if he is, who's checking for him? There are people, but it's not the market that Dylan Cease is, and he's not signed by Boris, and so you know that the negotiations aren't going to be contentious like they are with Dylan Cease. So I don't know how many people are checking for him, but I'm sure there are. But to put a number on it, I would say probably 30%. I wouldn't think that they're actively offering him, and I don't think there's a lot of teams actively calling the White Sox for his services, even though the White Sox have let it be known that they're open for business.
I think if there's one thing we've learned so far from Chris Getz is that he wouldn't have a problem parting with anybody. We hear trade rumors about Dylan Cease. We see him just say bye to Tim Anderson. I think that Chris Getz would certainly entertain any trade offers for Eloy Jimenez. That being said, Dylan Cease and Eloy Jimenez are in 2 very different places. Dylan Cease was the Cy Young runner-up a year ago. Eloy Jimenez is currently a power hitter struggling to hit the ball in the air. He's a guy who's had a lot of injury problems. He's a guy that has yet to live up to the potential. Dylan Cease did not have a good year for him necessarily last year, but he has shown that he can live up to that potential. So Eloy Jimenez right now, if you're the White Sox, you're going to be selling low on him. Dylan Cease, you could probably get a very hefty return package for Dylan Cease. So Eloy Jimenez might not get traded this year, or this winter rather, because you might not get what you think you should get for a guy as talented as Eloy Jimenez. Why not keep him on the team, let him hit 20 home runs before the All-Star break next year, and then you try to trade the guy. I don't think if Eloy Jimenez doesn't get traded this offseason, I don't think it's because Chris Getz has this grand plan to build a lineup around Eloy. I think it's because you would be selling pretty low on a guy that you thought so highly of that you already gave him a contract before he played a Major League game.
Well, Chris Getz didn't.
Well, the team
Yeah, no,
did,
I know.
I guess is my point, and the evaluation of that talent was there at the time, and from everything he's said about Eloy this offseason so far, he's expressing a belief that talent is still there.
And who else is better than Eloy in the actual organization right now? I mean, I know the organization is bad, but that just means that, the guys with talent kind of stick out, and we know that when healthy, he can be.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about Dylan Cease. Is he the most valuable commodity available this offseason? Even the free agents, his low cost, his 2 years of availability, him being a pitcher who posts 32 and 33 starts each of the last 2 years. No matter how bad the year was in 2023, posting is a valuable skill that many people don't have in this major leagues. And I think even before Nola, you got to pay him $170 million. You got to pay Dylan Cease, 25 in the next 2 years, if that. Inexpensive, and might be a Cy Young in the next couple of years. So he's that 90% makes sense because he's so valuable, and all these people missing out on Nola and when Snell and et cetera sign. I think Dylan Cease is a better commodity than all the rest of the pitchers and most of the people who are on the market not named Shohei Ohtani.
And Bob saying that the White Sox have a high price for Dylan Cease. Good.
As they should.
Make it as high as possible. Highest bidder. I mean, like that's the saying for a reason. I mean, I need to be so content with this deal because I mean, he is going to be a Cy Young at some point. I'll say that. I mean, he's got some of the nastiest stuff in all of baseball. He's able to start at least 32 games. If he has 7 more seasons where he starts 32 games, he's absolutely winning a Cy Young in one of those. So if it's not the right price, wait on Dylan Cease. I mean, hold on to Dylan Cease and Eloy Jimenez because you can give him playing time. You can give him the showcase to say, hey, look how good this guy is. Wouldn't he look good in a Braves uniform? Wouldn't he look good in an Orioles uniform? Hey, you need Heston Kjerstad and Colton Cowser? Come on, Baltimore. You're being stingy. Like, Chris Getz just holding the feet to the fire.
And you know what? There's the other side of that coin too, though, Sean. I mean, there's the other side of the coin, which is if they can't trade some of those guys this offseason, what if they're just good? Then you have Dylan Cease for 2 years. You have Eloy Jimenez for three years. You have Luis Robert for 4 years. You have Yohan Moncada for 2 years. Like, it's not the end of the world to all of a sudden these guys are good. And maybe that can dramatically change what, Herb, you described earlier as a rebuild on the fly. If it's on the fly, then your plans can change, and that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world either. It doesn't have to be the entire rebuild has to happen in one offseason or else there's no shot kind of thing.
It's a revamping. Again, it's rebuild such a dirty word, guys. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us. I don't think there's much more to touch on with the Chris Getz thing. We'll have more reaction to Paul DeJong tomorrow now that it is reported on by 2 people.
3. Bob Nightingale's in the mix now, too.
Oh, boy. It seems like it's official. I mean,
well, it's not.
It's got to do a physical.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
So that's why it's not official? Because, what's the rule? I thought the rule was if you have, at least 3 people reporting on it, that's a...
No, it's official when the team announces that it's official.
Okay. That's a source. Like, you want 2 people to vouch for it.
Oh, okay. So then 3 guys have 2 sources? I mean, there's 6 sources that are saying Paul DeJong.
Or you just need one source that is really good.
It's Paul DeJong.
It's being reported by multiple people. How about that?
Chris Getz. Those are good sources.
We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. That's Vinnie Duber. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber. He's our CHGO White Sox beat writer. Man in the middle is Herb Lawrence. You can follow him at Ecknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. And our producer is Sarah. Thank you to Sarah for producing the show. I'm Sean Naderson. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. We'll be back tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. with Jared Willis. So, hey, see you then.
We all silly like the mayor.